As you saw by the title of today's video, let me just move the camera a little. If we don't find the source of power within ourselves, we are going to run around and project that loss onto society and seek to take power there, creating misery for either a person, because we want to have power over them, or indeed a whole country, and even countries, like we are seeing now in the world. We've been seeing that for a long time when one country wants to oppress another country. It's all because we haven't found the source of our own power within. So it's satisfying for us to go run around and, control others. It's a projection of the loss of our own inner power, a connection to our own inner power. Something that I'm going to read to you, something that Betty Kovacs said in an interview. I'll leave the link down below in the video description. She did an interview with, I don't remember the gentleman's name, but it was New Thinking Aloud, on a podcast called New Thinking Aloud, and this is what she said. Then, if we go inward and achieve awareness of our shadow, the collective shadow of humanity is the missing soul or intuition, that's just my words, and allow our heart consciousness to develop, if we do that, we do not need power outside ourselves. See? If you allowed your own intuition to be the power, your own feminine to be your inner power, then you don't need outside power. You don't need to take outside power. You don't need to project. But I think if we fail in that, as an individual or as a culture, like I said, as a group, then we open ourselves to want to grab power. That's right. Because that's what fulfills us. If we can't find our own inner power, we must have it in the outer world. You see? You project. And that's the misery of our culture, really, of our Western culture, which has completely dismissed any kind of mysticism, dismissed the feminine. Feminine is mysticism. That is to say, looking into your dreams and your visions and your intuitive insights in art, in poetry, creative insights that come to you spontaneously from within, the inner power, the inner self, we call it. Sometimes it's called spirit, that's its masculine name. Soul is its feminine name. Divine feminine. Collective unconscious is another, the essence, eternity, God, whatever you want to call it. If you find that inward, your own source of the inner power, there's no need to go around and start controlling others. Start to seek power outside of yourself. Okay? So, Betty Kovacs also in this interview shows us a way how to do that, how to find that inner power. And this is what she said about that. I'll read again. I had a dream of Anubis. Anubis is the ancient Egyptian god, is a psychopomp. He takes the souls of the dead to afterlife. And he's a dog-headed god. You see, there's the dog, there's the feminine, the nose that knows, your intuition that leads you to where you have to go, to the center. Anyway, I had a dream of Anubis, and I dreamed that I was in Ashmolean Museum, and I went in. So Ashmolean Museum is obviously somewhere in England, or maybe in the US, I'm not sure. I wanted to look at some of the artifacts. When I looked over, and there was a jackal, sort of in a human form, but with the jackal head, and he was sitting there in a deep state of meditation. So there he was, the Anubis. And I thought, well, I won't disturb him. So I looked at the artifacts, and suddenly he was standing right behind me, right by me, and he said, You can study the artifacts if you wish, but I can teach you everything you need to know. You see? You can study things if you like, but I can teach you everything you want to know. I'll share with you a dream that I had in the same vein in a minute. And I turned and I looked at him and said, "Who are you?" And then there was a sort of an opening up, and a void said, "The void, the all." Yeah, the all in us all. That's the Anubis. That's your soul, that's your spirit. Anubis is just one example of this archetype of the inner guide, of your intuition. But there are many. There's the tree of life. There's the well, the water. There are the many magical animals. There's Gandalf, in Lord of the Rings, and there's Obi-Wan Kenobi in the Star Wars. There's Merlin. They're all masculine figures, but there's still the archetype of the wise old man. But there's also the archetype of wise old woman. The wise old grandma that knows the answers that you need to know. There's a lot of that, I think, in the North American Indian tradition. The Spider Woman, I think, from memory. You'd have to read Joseph Campbell. He goes into North American mythology a lot deeper than I can here. But this is the way that you find the power within. When you find the power within, you don't need to take power without. Because if you don't find that, you will try to control others. I see this every day, and as you make the life of another person miserable, and you make your own life miserable. You make your own life, obviously why you make the other person's life miserable, because you want to control everything that they do. You want to control what they eat, how they dress, how they think. I'm sure some of you or many of you have come across people like that. Or maybe you are like that yourself a little, You will want to see what they watch, how they think. You will want to know what they study. You will control everything. The car they drive, who you marry, who you don't, whether you're religious or not, everything is pretty much under control. So if you don't find that center within you, the power within, you're going to project that missing power outside, and you're going to control others because it's satisfying to you. You haven't found it within yourself, but you find it in the outside of yourself. It fulfills that longing. So that's what Betty Kovacs is saying. Betty Kovacs, by the way, is a Jungian, or was a Jungian, I think. She was one of the chairs of a Jungian association somewhere in the US. I don't remember the exact place. And she taught mythology, I believe, in a university for many, many years. I'll leave the link down to the interview. It's a very good interview. Let me just have a look what the title of the interview is. Working on what has been decayed. Working on what has been decayed. And what has been decayed is our mysticism, our connection, our finding our own inner power within. That's what's been decayed. And that's why the world is such a mess. Everybody wants to control everybody. Whether it is a person, like I said, or whether it is a nation. It started a long, long time ago. Could say it started about 5,000 years ago in the Neolithic, when we changed from the societies based on the feminine, the great goddess, to the society based on the masculine. They started off with the warrior tribes, who previously were hunters, and they had weapons. They were killers because they were killing animals, and power. It was men. Men are stronger, physically stronger, and they had weapons. Then they had the horse. They knew how to ride the horse. Then they had the warrior chariot. So it was easy for them to overcome all the other tribes, which were mainly agricultural tribes. They were growing crops. It's easier to loot, which is, to this day, this is what's happening. This is what we call business. Or big countries, the Western countries, feeding off looting the poorer countries. Africa, India, good examples. Asia, South America. The wealth of the Western countries is built on looting, because it's easier to loot than to grow your own wealth from within, from in your own country. Especially when you have the power, you have the technology. And that's how it started. They had the technology, they had the weapons, they had the male power, men are strong physically, you know, and then, like I said, they previously were hunters, so they were trained killers. And that's how it all started. It started from, when they moved from their own desert areas. It happened in the Middle East and then happened in Europe, Northeastern Europe, and in the Middle East. There were goat herders and sheep herders and camel herders later, and there were cattle herders in Europe and so on. So the quickest way for them to gain wealth was, rather than, they didn't want to wait for the crops to grow and grow rich that way. It was easy to just raid the next door tribe, and you got, straight away you got the cattle you wanted, the territory you wanted, the land, and slaves. That was the wealth back then, which is not that much different now. Businesses take over other businesses, because it's easier that way rather than grow from within. It's easier, you get a bigger base, you get more wealth a lot easier. Anyway, so that's what happens when you don't find power within. You don't build the power within, but you project it outside. Now I want to share with you a dream that happened to me years and years ago. I was in my early 20s, I think I was 23, 24, at that time living in Perth. I go into it in my book, Where We Dreamed a Single Dream. Some of you might have already read it. And there I was asking the questions, because I was miserable at what I was doing, the work and my life and everything was miserable. Depression, although I was making a lot more money. It just didn't feel right. Everything just didn't feel right. I worked 12 hours a day, 4 days on, 4 days off, for mining equipment, mining supply, one of the biggest engineering companies in Australia, mining supply, for mining in Australia and all over the world. Anyway, so there I was, asking the question, there must be something more to my life and so on, how can I receive all the insights, and how can I learn more and so on. There must be something more to me than just this chasing and just this working 24 hours a day, chasing money and so on, which is supposed to make me happy, but it didn't. It made me even more miserable. And one night I remember waking up about 3 o'clock. Usually this usually happens about 3 o'clock. I might make a video about this 3 o'clock one day too, in the middle of the night. It's symbolic, but anyway, I woke up and I see a face of a woman, unknown woman to me, floating above me. In my own dream, I was convinced that I woke up, or whether I actually woke up or whether it's a dream, So there I was. I woke up. I opened my eyes. It's dark in the room, but there's this face, this white, glowing face, dressed in white woman floating above me. She looks at me and she says, "Marek, don't lose the spirit, and I will show you everything you're looking for." It's exactly the same what Anubis said to Betty. Yeah? You can study the artifacts if you like, but I can teach you all that. So that's exactly what the Anubis said to Betty. But what it means by, for instance, in my dream, what it means that don't lose the spirit, and I will show you everything you're looking for. It means incubation of your spirit, your life force, or your libido. Turn it inward, force it back into your body, beautify it, rather than projecting it outside onto people and work and society and so on. Force it back inward, beautify it. What that means is incubation. What that means is, instead of making progeny, make poetry. You see? Instead of making aggression, make art. That's what that means. That's beautifying. You turn it inward, you force it back into your body, and then something happens inside of you. If you pay attention to your dreams, I'm just having a quick look at the time. If you pay attention to your dreams, that incubated life force, your libido, will start to grow within you, and you will start to see it as that perhaps a helpful animal, magical animal, inner guide, a divine child. This is your source of intuition, and this is what my the lady so I call her, told me is, don't lose the spirit. Force it back inward, beautify it, incubate it, and I will show you everything. When you incubate it, when you turn it inwards, it builds within you, the power builds within you, and the more power you have, the more incubated the life forces, your libido is, the more beautified, the more intuitive you become, the more creative you become. And at that time, I started to draw again, paint again. I remember with crayons, not with crayons, with pastels. I've still got some of the paintings to this day that I created that day. And I had started to have big dreams. And that's when I had a foretelling dream that I'm going to travel to Scandinavia shortly after that. And I did. So it works. So this is how you regain your power. This is how you, instead of projecting the power, wanting to grab power in the outside world, where you start to make the life miserable of somebody else or a whole country, if you're in that position, if you're a politician, someone else's country make the life miserable. You regain the inwards within yourself, and then calmness comes. And then with this calmness, when you have incubated it properly, creativity comes. That's the core of the feminine, of the divine feminine, is your dreams, your visions, your intuition, and your creativity. She will start to come through in your poetry, in your drawing, in your dancing perhaps, in dervishes, whirling around, finding the center. You might want to feel, you might want to feel like you want to work with hands, so you do your gardening and you do your cooking, even cleaning around the house is going to be a creative thing. Nothing is going to be a chore anymore for you. That's the magic of it. You have so much energy that you might not need to sleep 8 or 10 hours a day. You might only sleep 6 hours, 5 hours. Depends how much you have accumulated the energy inward. And so that energy becomes incubated, becomes beautified, it becomes creative and intuitive, So that's what I really wanted to talk to you about today, is that instead of projecting the loss of power that you haven't found within on the outside world and making the life miserable for others there, you find it within you, find that inner guide, the inner self within you, so that it becomes your partner in life, and then things start to flow. You start to flow. You might even become calmer. You might even want to isolate yourself for a while from others because something is different about you. Something is crying and saying to you, there are still other things that you need to do, you need to learn, and you need to perhaps read more books and do some research. Once you incubate, the inner life is activated, and then you're on your own inner journey to the recovery of the soul. You have already recovered, but maybe not consciously. Do you know what I mean? It's like in that dream with Anubis. You can study all that if you like. You can read all the books if you like. But if you turn inward, and if you activate my own power, incubate the energy, the life force, the libido inward, I will show you everything you want to know. Okay? That's all I wanted to talk to you about today. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye.